Okay, welcome to World Extermination Radio. I am your host, 40 Ounce, and I'm here today with Marnet Mar.
How's it going?
Hey, so before the show, we were just talking about some people we were talking about Dead Wolves, for example. He's one of the guys that got banned. Oh man, that was such a crazy story when he was talking about. He made that blog post about how he wanted to beat up his boss, and he later said in the message that he his boss had cancer or something.
Right.
That was such a crazy. Oh my god.
Yeah. No, it's once again, like I said earlier, you have to ban the majority of those people, but I really think that you need to keep at least one or two of them around for the entertainment.
Yes.
I mean, it's scary entertainment because I think he posted that he was a diagnosed sociopath, but it's entertainment nonetheless. I remember that exact thread where he was threatening to beat up his boss, and it got held, and I'm not sure which moderator it was that sent the post held, but I think he changed the title to something like Dead Wolves is a hilarious, pathetic baby man or something to that effect. I'm like, that is awesome.
Yeah, I love that. I miss that, man. We don't have post hell anymore in Doom World. That kind of sucks because I usually like to kind of poke around just to see what's going on there. But whatever.
Yeah, I mean, because on the one hand, it's like, do we really need to be having all that shitty content around? And then on the other hand, it's like, well, one, I think we kind of need to make examples of people who make shitty posts, in my opinion.
Yes.
And two, I mean, it had a lot of entertaining stuff to be, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of great threads in there. Like Andrew B's post about, or his thread about how he got the vasectomy. Oh my god, that was
I remember that one.
That one was pretty wild. He was pretty confident about his decision. He was pretty sure about it, and I'm not really sure what he was intending to achieve with the thread that he made, but he talked about it, and he had his reasons for doing so, and it was basically because he does not want to put a baby in this world. And he especially doesn't want to have to compromise the kind of women he wants to have sex with based on the risk of having a child with them.
Right.
Oh, yeah, it was pretty wild.
So did he go into a whole bunch of detail or something then, or what?
I think so. I think he let people kind of argue with him, be like, why the fuck would you do that? And then he would just basically shut down everyone's argument.
Right.
And he kind of made himself look kind of ridiculous, but I don't know. I kind of like Andrew B, though, because even though he doesn't post very often, and I don't particularly agree with almost anything that he says, it's like you said, it's good to have these characters around in Doom World to kind of just to have a variety of people that make to either make fun of or or whatever.
Right. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Anyway, you made a thread not too long ago where you were asking about why there aren't as many interviews with people from id Software besides John Romero. John Romero pretty much gets all the attention, right?
Yeah, and I think that I understand why he does, because, I mean, he's charismatic and he's got the, big, magnificent, beautiful hair. And, he was really just kind of the rock star face of id Software, really kind of all throughout the 90s. And so I understand why he's the only person that ever gets interviewed, but I still think it'd be really interesting to get some different perspective. I mean, especially from Sandy Peterson, because, remember, he designed 2/3 of the maps in Doom and Doom 2. It's, it wasn't all John Romero.
Right.
And then also Tom Hall. I mean, I would love to, I forget the name of that guy, but I think he worked on BioShock, and he did a playthrough of the first episode of Doom with John Romero. You remember that guy?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. I don't know his name, though.
Yeah. I would love to see him or maybe somebody else do that with Tom Hall, but playing through the alpha versions.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to be able to see Tom Hall actually go through and point out okay, what location this area was supposed to be or what that area was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it'd be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, right. Tom Hall is like, I mean, he wrote the Doom Bible, so he wrote. I mean, he's pretty much responsible for a lot of what little storyline there is in Doom.
Right.
So like, it would be really interesting. He's obviously he's a very creative person because he wrote
Yeah.
like all those character bios, and like he was gonna have Doom have like 6 episodes and all these levels, and everything was gonna be like hub based and realistic and all kinds of cool, interesting stuff.
Yeah,
And
my joke about Tom Hall is that he's like Warren Spector on speed.
yeah, yeah, he's really the idea behind like all the plot and the storyline and stuff. Do we know who wrote the intermission messages like at the end of each episode?
I believe reading somewhere that was Sandy, but don't quote me on that.
I think I remember reading that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be really interesting to talk to Sandy because he's just full of like brilliant ideas. Like all of the cool maps are like all of the really interesting maps in Doom are credited to him.
Yeah. And, funny, like Fortress of Mystery is a really good example of that.
Yeah.
Everybody hates that map, but I guess that was the map where id Software like they discovered infighting for the first time, and they didn't even know about it until Sandy made that map.
Yeah.
And looking back on it now, it's like, oh my god, this is terrible. But I mean, kind of getting into the mind of Sandy Peterson, it kind of gives you a new appreciation for it.
Yeah, he's so innovative. The way he kind of like, I always really appreciate how well he uses monsters because he sets up a lot of traps, and he uses and he kind of like he has this really interesting way of making like the weapons and the monsters interact with each other, like kind of like the way he like for example Barrels of Fun, which is all barrels, and that's just like kind of an obstacle in itself. Like you're not the enemy isn't necessarily the monsters, it's avoiding all those barrels in the beginning. And he has like other interesting concepts like the Crusher, for example, which is like this just kind of like these fun innovative ideas that kind of explore what is capable in Doom's gameplay mechanics. And I thought that was really smart and innovative of him. And you don't really see that as much in the other level designers. So
I agree with you. And I was actually gonna bring up the Crusher too before you mentioned it. And I think that pretty much every one of Sandy Peterson's map has some kind of gimmick behind it.
Right.
Whereas, with John Romero and American McGee, that's not really the case so much.
Right. Yeah. Like with the Sandy Peterson, we have maps like the suburbs, which is just like this huge mass of monsters, or like this huge, like, basically the main slaughter map in Doom. And then we have like Courtyard, which is kind of like this huge infighting arena. What else do we have? Like the I don't know, like Downtown, which is kind of this whole like I guess people call it the Sandy box. It's it's cool that he has like all these really innovative ideas, and it would be really interesting to like talk to him and like find out what would be interesting to know if there was any like maps that he wanted to work on that he never actually got a chance to, or if I don't know, because he has really smart ideas, and I wonder what he would have to say about Doom or Doom 2 after the fact, if there was like some maps that he thought could have been better, or like maybe maps that he wanted to make that he wish he did, but that he wish he had, but he didn't have the time, stuff like that.
Right. Well, I mean, I know for a fact that there are maps that Sandy worked on that didn't make it into the final game. Remember when Quasar, I think it was, released those, and those maps to this day have never been released, but they were these Doom Builder screenshots of some maps that didn't make it into the game. And one of them was, so Doom 0.5?
Yeah.
The alpha, and it had this, the first map of that never made it into the game. But anyway, there was this overhead shot of this version of it that, it no longer had the little bounding box around it, so that Tom Hall wasn't working on it at that time.
Right.
And you could see that, like, Sandy had added some, like, I think he added, like, some little caves to it, and there was, like, some blood and stuff that you could see. And then there was another one that I'm pretty sure was just judging by the size of the monster actors on the map. I'm pretty sure it was another version of E2M8, but there's no way to know for sure.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I'd love to talk to Sandy Peterson sometime. I just don't know how to like contact him. I do have good news though. I did I tried to reach out to a few people that I could find on like Facebook and Twitter, and I managed to get in contact with 2 people. I got in contact with Sean Green, and
really?
yeah, he I had to talk him into it a little bit, but he's interested in doing an episode of WXR, but he's on retreat right now, so he's not available until like I think like July or August or something. So it'll be a while before I get to talk to him. But yeah, I'm really interested in learning about like what it was like working at id Software and stuff. The other guy I talked to was American McGee, and he's interested in doing a show too.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. American McGee would be really interesting to hear from.
Yeah, American McGee is a really interesting guy.
Yeah, because not only did he design the maps for Doom, but I mean, he also, he's the guy behind American McGee's Alice, obviously, and so.
Right. Yeah, he's also made like some of the best looking.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
He's also made some of the best looking maps in Doom too. Also, I mean, he made the Focus and Underhalls, which are pretty awesome looking maps compared to the rest of them.
Right, and the Inmost Dens, where it has like that. You know what I'm talking about? It has like all that detail like carved out of the wall with like all these little square sectors.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So if we could have these guys on the show, Sean Green, American McGee, what kind of questions do you think you would want to ask them?
Sean Green, I would probably ask about, because I think it was him that was kind of the main, John Romero's main, I guess, rival when it came to death matching in The Office. And like I've read in I think Masters of Doom and like some other interviews that like I think they had like this. I think that at the id office they had like this intercom system, and I think John Romero and Sean Green, to my recollection, they actually like hooked microphones up it, and they would be like screaming profanities at each other across the office, and they'd be like throwing shit and whatnot. I would love to hear the stories that Sean Green has to say about that.
Oh yeah, dude, I bet he's got some awesome memories of death matches, and oh man, that office seemed like so chaotic to work in, because you mentioned that you read Masters of Doom. I read that too.
Yeah.
And man, that's such an awesome book. It was so much fun, like learning about what it was like inside the id office, and like how they look like when they created deathmatch for the first time, and how blown away they were about it. Oh man, I can imagine that being so exciting.
Yeah.
And just like learning about all the basically all the people that work there, like the relationship between like Tom Hall and John Romero, and how like they got along so well. And I wanted to get I was hoping I could talk to Adrian Carmack too, but I don't know how to get a hold of him. But I'd like to learn more about the Doom art.
Kind of hides in the shadows a lot, at least from what I've heard.
Right. Well, I heard I read like an article about how he was suing id Software for like something about like intellectual property or something like that, but that was somewhere in like the early 2000s or something. And I think he had I don't know if it didn't seem like he was going to win the lawsuit, so he had to settle on something like that. And so I don't know if he has any association with id Software or anything that's going on with any of the original id guys. I don't know for sure though, because I haven't actually talked to him. But I'm really fascinated with like his. I've always been really interested in his art, like the kind of like how the textures that he makes, and like all the just like all the clay models and stuff for the monsters and all that cool stuff. It would be really interesting to like talk about some of the ideas and stuff that he had behind that.
Right. Yeah, I'd really like to hear. I'd like to learn about his creative process, and I'd be kind of curious to know if he has any like just art that he does for his own personal projects outside of video games.
Yeah.
Because it seems like he's kind of really inspired by H.R. Giger and a lot of those kind of artists. And
Yeah.
I mean, I love that kind of art, so I would love to see if Adrian Carmack has made some of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the intermission background for Doom 2 is just amazing. I just it's so cool the way like the skulls and the bones kind of like morph into each other and stuff.
Yeah.
It's so awesome, and it's like, oh, it's like it kind of like I remember like when I saw it for the first time, it gave me chills, and it was just like
Yeah.
it's such a cool looking thing, and I remember another thing that especially gave me chills. But the first time I played Doom as a kid, I was really young. I was like 4 or 5 years old, something like that. And I played Doom with all the cheat codes on. And I remember when I got to the end of E3M8 and I defeated the Spider Mastermind, and you see like the ending cutscene where it's got like the bunnies like hopping across the across the fields,
Yeah.
and it pans over and there's a decapitated bunny on a stick, and I was like so terrified as a child.
Yeah, I feel sorry for anybody at that age that had to like have their childhood ruined by that.
It really did. That image haunted my brain for a long time. Like I even
I can
like
imagine.
like even whenever I heard the D Bunny music, it would just make me it would make my heart stop. It was just really terrifying. And like
Right. Well, I mean, the music by itself is creepy enough. I mean, you
Yeah.
don't need a picture of a decapitated bunny head to get a message across.
I wonder what the point of that is. Like it never really like at the end of episode 4, it does like reference that the demons killed your bunny Daisy. But it seems like that was kind of like added after the fact. I wonder what the point of like that ending really was. Maybe it was just supposed to be like it's not over or something. I don't know.
I'm thinking it was probably just to throw the player off. I
Yeah.
mean, I can actually picture John Romero being the one that came up with that idea. Be like, hey, dude, at the end, let's have like a decapitated bunny's head. Something like that.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if that was John Romero's idea. That just seems like something that. In fact, I kind of wonder if that's where the whole John Romero's head on a stick thing came from.
Oh, it might be. That's an interesting connection. I wonder. Yeah, that could be. Like, what if maybe they just I don't know. Like maybe they just kind of like wanted to do like kind of a throwback to that because like if I don't know. It's hard to it's hard to draw connections exactly because like we don't really know for sure.
Right.
But yeah, that is an interesting parallel though. The decapitated bunny and then also decapitated Romero head. It is. I wonder if that could be something. I wonder. I don't know. I wonder who's actually responsible for making it. I guess it's probably Adrian Carmack, right?
Yeah, I think there's a. I'm pretty sure that I saw like the actual illustration that Adrian did of that because John Romero released. He did like that big asset dump a while back.
Oh really? There was actually a drawing of Romero's head on a stick.
No, not a. Oh, I thought you were talking about
the rabbit. The rabbit. Okay, yeah.
But although there was like the actual original photograph they used for that though was in there for John Romero's head on a stick. I remember that, and there was also I think the original drawing of the intermission screen for episode 1 was also in there.
Yeah.
Where it was just like the picture of the crater, and then I think they like added the little graphics for all the little faces onto it afterward.
Yeah, Adrian Carmack's art style is really inspiring for me.
Yeah.
I'm not that much of an artist myself, but I've watched like YouTube videos about like how to draw stuff, and I've attempted to like draw stuff that kind of looks like something that Adrian Carmack would make. But,
right.
I don't know. I haven't practiced that hard about it, so I never really got very good. But yeah, he's got a really fascinating art style. So yeah, it would be really cool to talk to Sean Green about like deathmatch and stuff, and just like what it was like being in the id Software office, because like video games made today are like they're all in these like big corporate offices, and they're probably fun to a degree, but I don't think it's fun like id Software was, because that was just kind of like a group of guys that just wanted to make something cool, and they all had good ideas, and they all pitched in together and made something awesome. And I can imagine it being it's this like to how video games are made today. It kind of scared me off of wanting to be a video game designer like as a child, because it seemed like when I was like middle school and high school and stuff, especially like in like the mid 2000s, like the modern military shooter was like everybody was making that. It was just these brown modern military sci-fi shooters, and they almost all look the same. Like, did you ever see that comparison shot where they had like there was like this meme or something, and they had um, a screenshot of Killzone, Medal of Honor, and Call of Duty together, and the games looked fucking identical. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, the whole video game franchise is going to shit. There's no reason why I should ever aspire to be a part of this.
I don't think I ever saw that, but I did see I think I saw something similar where it was like that, but with the cover art.
Oh, yeah.
You know how like every modern military shooter nowadays it's a guy with a gun walking towards the camera.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, I'm kind of happy that things are turning around now. I'm seeing a lot more like arena shooters and stuff coming out, and like indie games coming out, which is pretty cool. And but like I remember at the time I was like really uninterested, and I was like reading articles and stuff about it too. Like I read this one article that someone wrote about what it was like being a programmer for a video game company, and he made it sound really depressing because most of the time, because he said the gist of what it is that most of the time you have a supervisor that's telling you what to program, and whether or not you think it's going to be a good game, it's not really up to you. You just do what you're told. And the games that you want to make, you have to make on your own time, and you very rarely get any time to do that because you're working long hours to get these other games across, and you don't get a lot of input on what you want the game to be like. You just get told what to do, and that's your job. And that just sounds really sucky because like when we work on like maps and stuff for Doom, we're all in control of what we want to do. You get your creative vision, you do whatever work you feel like doing, and there's also like resources that are getting shared all over the place. So even if you can't create something, you can get somebody who can, and they'll make something for you. And I really like the idea of being part of this community in Doom where you just kind of like you're your own boss and you can make whatever it is, whatever comes to your mind. And we can do it so quickly with the Doom engine too. It's just mapping is so quick and easy. It's just an amazing thing. I remember a while ago you posted a thread on Doom World. You said you were like taking a break from Doom for a while, and you left behind a zip file full of like a bunch of unfinished maps that you made. And I picked them up, and I had the intention for a while of actually finishing some of your maps and just like releasing them.
Really?
Yeah, but well, not without your permission. I was gonna let you know before I did. But I thought it'd be really interesting to like kind of like mold my style in with yours and try to like kind of finish these maps that you started, and like kind of create like a short episode of maps. And what I got from looking at your maps is I can tell you're very interested in like that kind of Ultimate Doom, like original Doom kind of style. Is that true?
Yes and no. Like,
okay.
I mean, I think I kind of am known sort of as one of those vanilla sort of Doom the way it did kind of I guess guys nowadays.
Yeah.
But like my reason for being that is different from what it was when I was, making maps for Doom the way it did. Because when I first started making maps for Doom the way it did, I think the first map that I made, it was Recycling Plant, and that ended up in the lost episodes as E5 and 3, I believe. And
okay.
I was 14 when I made that map.
Wow.
And my reasoning back then was really pretty simple. It was kind of along the lines of, okay, I like Doom 1, so let's make more of that. And now that I'm 20, my perspective on that has kind of shifted. I like making, sort of vanilla Doom the way it did style maps, but it's because when you're making a map that doesn't have any kind of detail, it forces you to really think about the space as a whole.
Yeah.
And to think about how, all the areas flow into one another. And I think that if you map without using any detail, after a while, your maps will actually begin to look better instead of worse, because you have to figure out how to use, texturing and lighting in order to, make an area that otherwise wouldn't look very good look good.
Yeah.
And, so I think people who start out right away trying to kind of, and I have nothing against Tormentor 667, but people who start out right away trying to make something like that, where they have like a million little detail sectors and whatnot, their maps are never going to be good, because in a way they never learned how to map in the first place. They never learned the fundamentals of good level design.
Yes. Yeah. I agree with that too. I think like what you would need if you are a new mapper, it is good to start with vanilla. And the reason I say that is because you kind of have to work with limitations, and working with limitations, I think, has a way of breeding creativity. So like if you're like stuck with only a set amount of resources to use, and like you can only make X amount of sectors or whatever, you kind of have to explore the possibilities of what you have available, instead of like kind of going crazy with like detail and adding scripts and all kinds of crazy stuff that you would get excited about if you learned out. Like if you're just starting mapping and you have all these brilliant ideas, but you don't really know anything about mapping itself or like how the Doom engine works, you're probably inspired to try all this stuff with like all these with no limitations and with all these possibilities and features and stuff, and then go crazy with that. And I think people have a lot to learn by kind of exploring what's possible to do with Doom by itself, and then branching off from there. Because in my experience, it seems like the best mappers do like follow that sort of process. And yeah, I get what you're saying about the way, like when you're working when you try to design your maps without using too much detail, you do draw more attention to like the textures that you use to kind of create the scene that you want to make. And so like when you work with like something like Ultimate Doom and like the knee deep in the dead textures with like Startan and like brown 96, brown green, stuff like that. That's stuff that we're used to seeing. You kind of have to think about like what those materials are made of and like what kind of environments they're usually in. Like when you play in Ultimate Doom, you usually see like in the first episode where there's like nukage, you'll see like those brown green textures because they have slime on them. But you might not notice that if you went crazy with the detail and you just want to use whatever textures are different from each other so you can see the detail that you're making. And you do like pay a lot more attention to like what's actually on the textures and stuff. That's what I've been thinking about lately, because I've been working on a project myself. I'm actually working on something akin to UAC Ultra 2, where I'm kind of avoiding making textures that have very specific details on them. I kind of like the way that like Doom has like kind of like these abstract material, these textures that are just kind of they're just kind of materials. They're not really they don't have like computer screens or switch plates or signs or stuff on them. Well, some of them do, but most of them are just pretty like these very very generic materials, and it allows you the possibility to create these tech bases that are kind of like nondescript. They're abstract. You can't really tell exactly where you are based on the textures that are used. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, it's funny that you should bring that up, because I think that, and this is kind of going away from the original topic, and we can probably
No, it's okay.
Back around to the original topic, but I think that, because you're right, the textures in the iWads and the Ultimate Doom and Doom 2, they're not, most of them don't have any specific purpose. They're designed to be pasted everywhere to, essentially create a combat space. And I think that is why these, so many of these high-tech texture packs for Doom never work.
Yeah.
Is because, it's not supposed to represent anything.
Right.
So if you're, sitting there adding detail to something that's not supposed to represent anything in the first place, and it's just designed to be pasted everywhere, then, you're not going to get something that, looks more realistic. You're just going to get something that looks like crap. Right.
Yeah, I wonder if that would explain why, if you look in like the alpha versions, they have these textures where like they have like filing cabinets and like they have like little like coffee makers and stuff in the offices, and they have other things like those shower drains and
Yeah.
like computers at different angles. I wonder if one of the reasons why like those were removed is I remember reading in Masters of Doom that like Sandy Peterson like sucked at using textures, and he just kind of like pasted like whatever textures he found. So like I wonder if he like used textures that like had like those filing cabinets and just like pasted them all over the walls, and then you just had like these giant walls with like thousands of filing cabinets on it, and it just looked retarded. So like they just like
Honestly,
eliminated all
in
this
a
stuff.
weird Salvador Dali kind of way, I think that would look kind of cool, to be honest. They have like this, 1,024 tall pillar just of filing cabinets.
Yeah.
But I think that I believe Sandy Peterson is actually colorblind. Like,
Oh really?
as a matter of fact, yeah. And so I'm not sure if it was himself that said that or if it was somebody else, but that's part of the reason why his maps aren't as clean looking as John Romero's maps or Tom Hall's maps is because he was colorblind.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. That would make a lot of sense though, because you see a lot of places where like he has like these very like clashing color schemes like mashed together, where you got these like red bricks on one wall and then you have like green marble on another, and those are just like on the color wheel. Those are like two completely opposite colors.
Yeah, I'd like to find out what kind of color blindness it is that Sandy Peterson has, and then like somebody should make like a palette modification to like so you can like play Doom through the eyes of Sandy Peterson. And I don't know, kind of see what he was seeing. I don't know.
Right.
I think it'd just be kind of interesting.
Yeah, that would be really interesting because like Doom would like all of a sudden look amazing after that.
Right.
There has
it's like you pull on the palette mod, and then all of a sudden it turns into Back to Saturn X or something.
Yeah, I bet if we search deep into the Doom forums, I know someone made a thread where he created palettes that were based on types of color blindness. So
really?
Yeah, but it was long. It was many years ago, and I would have to dig deep to find it because I know like the search function in the new Doom world's kind of sucky, so I don't know if I'll have much luck finding it. But that would be like really fascinating to talk to him about that.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it really would be.
Yeah. Oh man, I can imagine that. Like, it would be so funny to like test it with like some sort of palette that was similar to the kind of color blindness that he has, and then just everything was just like kind of like this nice clean grayish brown or something that just kind of like makes everything look great.
Right.
That would be so funny.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think I've kind of I've developed a certain fondness of the way that Sandy Peterson uses textures or used textures over the years. Because, I mean, there's something to be loved about a map that's just really, wacky and surreal. I mean,
yes.
Fire blue.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta love it.
Yeah, I do. I do love it. And I think Sandy Peterson's kind of responsible for making the modding scene for Doom as exciting as it is, because he does explore a lot of like interesting ideas. Like if we had an entire Doom 1 or Doom 2 made completely by John Romero or by American McGee, I mean, that probably would inspire some mappers, I'm sure. But Sandy Peterson tests a lot of like really like kind of zany ideas. Like he kind of morphs these two unlike texture themes together, or he'll like kind of explore these new concepts like how you were talking about E2M9, where like the concept is that you're not supposed to kill the monsters, you're supposed to get the monsters to kill themselves. Like there's like all these kind of like interesting like gameplay elements to explore in Doom, and it kind of it probably gave a lot of ideas to people who were playing Doom for the first time and like wanted to explore these other concepts, like what would happen if a cyber demon fought against a bunch of zombie men or something, and then we get 1994 WADs where there's zombie men and cyber demons everywhere, and it's kind of I feel like he's kind of responsible in that way for making mapping for Doom as fun as it is, and I mean, I'm sure I know John Romero does make some pretty awesome maps, and I'm sure they're inspiring for some people, but I think Sandy Peterson kind of bridged that gap and made mapping kind of like a mass appeal thing for all sorts of different types of people.
Yeah. I think that, if you didn't have somebody as wacky as Sandy Peterson, doing episodes 2 and 3, then they probably wouldn't be anywhere near as exciting.
Yeah.
Because you look at, like, E2M6, Halls of the Damned, that's actually, I think, my favorite map in Doom 1 is Halls of the Damned. And I don't think that John Romero would be able to make anything like that.
Yeah.
Because I think that just the way that Sandy Peterson kind of molds the, hell textures with the base textures, he does it in such a wacky and surreal way that it kind of almost makes it more atmospheric and creepy.
Yeah.
It's like you walk into this base that's, being consumed by hell, and I don't know, it's just like, it kind of, you get that feeling that, like, whatever was here is now long gone, and, your attempts to save it or find it or whatever are completely in vain, and you may as well give up now. That's kind of the feeling that I get from a lot of Sandy Peterson's E2 maps.
Yeah, I get that too, especially with like that part of the map where it kind of like breaks into like that wooden maze.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no reason why something like this should exist in real life. But because like hell is so twisted, it kind of like morphed itself into the Lost Demas base. Ooh, that's like,
yeah, it's kind of like really Lovecraftian in that way.
Yeah, it's very strange and nightmarish and kind of very uncomfortable. And like I couldn't imagine another game like being made today, like with the kind of graphics that we see today. I couldn't imagine another game like actually actively capturing that kind of concept that Sandy Peterson created.
Yeah. See, like I would love, and I think that's kind of why I'm looking forward to the game Scorn that's coming out. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
I heard a little bit about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like this. You're basically in this giant world that's kind of inspired by H.R. Giger. But
yeah, I was gonna say it's like an H.R. Giger thing.
Like a lot of games, when they try to depict hell or I guess really any kind of nightmare world nowadays, it's kind of like it's all fire and brimstone and whatnot, just kind of the sort of conventional things that are scary. But I would love to see something that is just really non-representational and just really like, like you said, like, oh my God, why this should not even exist.
Right. It's like it's more like a bad dream
nowadays that do that.
Yeah, it's like a bad dream and like less like an actual kind of place,
Right.
Ooh. That's what makes it so cool. But it also makes Doom like so like the mapping for it so innovative, because like even if you do create something that looks kind of shitty, kind of like the low definition nature of it allows it to look kind of creepy and like chaotic in its own way without kind of like losing what it's supposed to look like, I guess. Yeah, it's, I don't know. Yeah, that sounds really interesting with Scorn. I've only seen a few screenshots of it, so I don't know a whole lot about it. But yeah, I would like to see that concept explored the way it does, and just kind of creates this kind of like really like alternate dimension type of world.
Right.
Yeah, it's very cool. So, what are you doing lately? Do you do much mapping? I've seen a couple screenshots you've been posting recently. Are you willing to talk about it?
Yeah. So, right now, have you ever played Freudian Slipgate, the project that Alter did?
Yeah, I have.
So the original Map 01 was going to be done by me, and obviously it didn't make it in because obviously I didn't finish it. But I'm working on. I found one of my old hard drives a few months back, and I ended up coming across this original Map 01 of Freudian Slipgate, and I figured, well, this it's got like this really cool kind of rocky canyon area at the beginning, and it's got like a lot of these really cool, just sort of like red lights and stuff in it. I may as well, I don't really want to let this map go to waste, so I may as well finish it up and release it standalone. And so that's kind of what I've been doing now.
Oh,
I
that's
haven't really
good.
been able to work on it that much because I've been working a lot because I live smack in the middle of Utah, and I'm the night shift manager at a local Subway, and it's the Mormon Miracle Pageant, which essentially what that is it's like a nativity play, but instead of being about the story of Jesus, it's about the Book of Mormon.
Oh.
And thousands of people come from all over the world to see this.
Oh God.
I shit you not. And I'm not trying to make fun of anybody's religion, but it just baffles me. But
yeah.
Anyway, I've been working a lot of hours just because the Scientology has basically come to town, and so I haven't had much of an opportunity to map recently. But in the coming weeks, I'll be getting back to it.
Yeah. So you're busy. When you say Subway, are you talking about like a Subway, like a train, or like Subway, like the sandwich restaurant?
I'm talking about the sandwich restaurant.
Oh my God, that was where I had my first job.
Oh really?
Yeah, I worked at a Subway too.
What'd you think of that?
I didn't like it. Well, it did have some cool perks. You get a free sandwich with every lunch, which is really really cool.
Right.
And the food there is good. So I actually of all the places that I've worked at, of all the food places that I've worked at, Subway was one of the places where I never actually got tired of its food. It had really good sandwiches, and it had a lot of variety and stuff like that, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I worked with a lot of Indian people, and that's not a problem or anything. But a lot of the people that I worked with didn't speak very good English. So what was often happening is that when I worked with like a couple other Indian people, they would just talk Hindi to each other, and they would just have conversations without me. And I don't know if they were talking shit on me or if they were, I don't know what was going on, but I couldn't like they were all talking to each other, and I just kind of stood there and like was just awkward, and it kind of sucked. But
I could see how that wouldn't be very fun.
Yeah. My experience there, it was okay. It was my first job, and I had plenty of hours working there, and I saved up a lot of money from working there, which is cool.
Right on.
But I don't miss food service at all.
No. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the day where I'll just be able to put my 2 weeks notice in and be like, screw you guys.
Yeah. That's kind of
like, I don't know what kind of crazy prank that I'm gonna pull, on my last day. Like, I've been considering. Well, I probably shouldn't talk about it in case
in case Subway fans are listening to this and want to learn about Doom.
Management happens to browse Doom World or something.
Well, it's probably not likely, but I didn't create any pranks when I left, but I did think about a couple of things. I did wanted to like. At one point, I wanted to like mix up all the fountain sodas so that like Coke would come out of the Sprite button, and like High C would come out of the Dr. Pepper, and like all kinds of stuff like that. But
oh my gosh,
that's
a really good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is though is that when you make food for people, people tend to treat you like shit. Like some people are just like really mean. And sometimes for no reason at all. You can be really pleasant, and they'll just be in a really bad mood and be really short with you and all kinds of stuff.
I have this theory and it applies to everybody who has not had a retail or food service job, and that is when you walk into a fast food restaurant or you walk into a retail establishment, for the entire time that you're for the entire time that you're in the building, you will lose 20 IQ points. And then when you walk back out, all of a sudden you're back to normal again.
Yeah, it is very weird because people that would normally be like pretty like normal, charismatic people are like morons when they're ordering food.
Right. Well, the other thing is that, I mean, and, the reason why food service and retail jobs suck is because of the fact that everybody eats and everybody shops.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that includes some of the more amusing citizens that we have living among us.
Yeah, those people.
But I don't know. I think that you end up, you learn to have more patience with
That's
people, I
definitely
think. And, you learn to, I don't know, your people skills generally improve if you've got some entitled fuck yelling at you about some inconsequential thing, every other day.
Yeah. You kind of like learn to handle those types of people. I think
Right.
everybody should, at some point in their life, like it should be like a mandatory thing to serve at least like 1 or 2 years in food service, because it really does change you. Because everywhere I go to eat, I'm always like I'm always really I always try to be as pleasant and thankful and grateful as possible, because I know what it's like to be behind the counter of like a Subway, or to be waiting tables or stuff like that. I know it's like a miserable job, and I know working at a job like that, if you work there X amount of years, you eventually begin to just hate everybody, no matter who it is.
Right.
And so I'm always like really thankful whoever's like serving me food, because that's such a generous thing for someone to do, considering how difficult it is to do for some people. And like you don't get paid very much to do it, which is very weird. Um, it's especially when you consider that like pro athletes and stuff are like getting paid like tens of thousands times more what you're making. It's crazy, and
Well,
all they're doing is like playing basketball or catching a football.
I mean, whether or not, in the end, no matter how much it grates on your mental faculties, it is unskilled labor.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't, it's not a highly specialized field. So, you're
Right.
never going to get paid much for it. But, it
Yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah, I don't see anything changing anytime soon. It just seems like in theory, in a perfect world, that's something that would people would have to do. They would have to contribute to society in some way by cooking food for other people.
Right.
Because then you actually get to deal with those kinds of people. When I worked after I worked at Subway, I worked at a different place called Wawa, which is like it's a convenient, like, do they have 7-Elevens where you are?
Yeah, not where I am, because I live like in the middle of Podunk rural farm area, but
okay, but you're familiar with
we
it?
have 7-Elevens in Utah occasionally.
Okay, so yeah, they're like these. For those of you who don't know, it's a convenience store basically. They have just random groceries and stuff, but you can also get food there. And Wawa is kind of like that, but it's kind of like a supercharged version where it has like a deli like Subway has, where people can order sandwiches that way. And it also has gas, and so you can get fuel for your car, and it has a bunch of other stuff too. And it's kind of just like a nicer version of 7-Eleven basically. But what I did is I worked in the morning, and I worked making breakfast sandwiches for people. And so what my shifts started at 5 in the morning, and I got done around like 12 noon. And so I would come in and make breakfast sandwiches, and like this Wawa is like super popular up where I live, and like in the upper northeastern part of the United States. It's just like the main thing here. It's everybody goes to Wawa before they go to work. So I would make these breakfast sandwiches in the morning, and we would sell like as much as like 500 in a day, and that's just between like the breakfast hours of like 5 to 12 noon. And so I'd make these breakfast sandwiches, and sometimes people would, if there was like a specific sandwich that they wanted, like they want one without cheese or something, or without eggs or something like that, they would have to come to me and ask directly. But all of the people, almost at least half of the people I had to deal with, were just so rude, and I believe it's because these are people that they're on their way to work, so they're up early and they don't want to be up early, and they haven't had their coffee yet, and they're hungry, so they're just like the worst kinds of people. And I just had to deal with these people all the time, and it was just it was just like sandpaper going across my brain, just like wiping everything away. It like tore away at my sanity, and just made me hate people after so many years, and it was just depressing coming into work every day. But on the other hand, I feel like that's something people should have to do and just kind of experience, just so they can be more appreciative of the kind of people that do these kinds of services and stuff. We're getting way off topic, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I don't know. Let's talk about maps.
Sure.
Talk about Doom.
Yeah. So this game Doom, this is a game I play, and I know you play it too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool game. It's been around for
We
almost
start playing
25 years.
Doom.
Yeah. But yeah, I do want to I haven't done a whole lot of playing lately, but I did play some stuff recently. And unfortunately, I was kind of disappointed with what I found. I guess I got unlucky. I was browsing through Wads and Mods, and I just picked up some random stuff, and it was stuff that didn't have screenshots, so I didn't really know what I was getting myself into anyway. But it was a lot of like my first map type stuff,
Right.
so I got kind of unlucky. But I don't know. I do like to help mappers the best I can though. I'm trying to work on some like more tutorials and stuff to help people make better maps, and I don't know. I kind of feel like that I kind of feel like now that Doom's been around for like 20 years, um, a lot of these like common things that come up in people's like my first maps, like they I don't know, like there's too much ammo or something, or like maybe they don't align their textures or something weird like that. Like all these kind of like common my first map mistakes. I feel like those should be like almost like kind of eliminated by now. Not maybe not eliminated, but like there's enough maps to play that you can reference to know like what it means to make a good map these days. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. I agree and I disagree because I mean a lot of times if you're just barely starting out making maps, a lot of times you haven't played enough maps, and you don't really have any frame of references to what looks good and what doesn't.
Okay.
Because I mean I didn't really find out about a lot of the really classic map sets when I first started mapping until a while afterward.
Oh yeah.
And that just kind of came from sort of browsing the forums and seeing what other people were talking about, and then having a look at that, and then being like, okay, I like what this map is doing. What do I like about it? And I'll try to emulate that. But a lot of times when you first start out, I think that like I said, you don't really have any frame of reference, and in a way, I think that kind of makes a lot of my first map projects. It makes them kind of like a box of chocolates. I mean, it's a dumb analogy, but you really never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And, when somebody's never made a map for Doom before and they're not familiar with any of the mapping conventions, occasionally you'll find something that is actually kind of cool.
Yeah. You mean like something that's like kind of like creative and unique in its own way?
Right. It's I don't know. I can't. It's like it's a phenomenon that I know it exists, but I can't name any specific examples of it off the top of my head.
Yeah. When I got into mapping for the first time, I played a lot of Doom before I actually started mapping. So I found out about, I think it was like in the early 2000s or something. I found out that how to download PWADs and play them, and some of the first ones I played were mostly like your classic megawads, like Requiem, and I think one of the first ones I really got into was Scythe 2, and Scythe 2 still holds up today. And then there's like stuff like Alien Vendetta and Kama Sutra. I was really fascinated with megawads, and I did a lot of lurking on the Doom World forums before I actually made an account, and so I was watching the new stuff reviews that would come up, so I would look at screenshots all the time, and so I got a pretty good idea of what people were making currently, and I remember looking at like some CAC awards and stuff for like I think Agent Spork like just finished the Ultimate Simplicity, and like Tormentor 667 was working on like the Ultimate Torment and Torture and stuff, and these were like pretty popular map sets at the time. And I remember looking at the screenshots of stuff like that, and like playing around with the editor. I used Doom Builder 1 when that was new, and I remember just playing around with the editor and like looking at like the original IWADs and stuff and figuring out how to make sectors, and then like making my own maps after that. And I would look at what they were creating with their sectors, and I was like, oh, you know what, I can make that. Like I looked at like the detail and stuff that they would make, and I was like, oh, I can recreate that. So I attempted to make stuff like that on my own. And after that, like my first couple maps that I actually released were they actually weren't that good, but they were also speed maps because I had trouble like setting a certain time limit for myself and like actually just finishing. So like I decided that I was gonna like only spend 2-3 hours on this map and just get it done. And so like my first map wasn't that detailed or anything, but I had a pretty good grasp of like what it meant to make like a pretty detailed and good looking map. And so I guess my perspective is a little kind of jaded in that way because I played a lot of Doom and a lot of WODs, and I compared myself to a lot of great mappers before I started mapping.
Right.
So that kind of gave me like
I totally understand that if you've if you were actually a fan of the game and were playing a lot of Doom before you started mapping. Like I think it depends. I guess it kind of depends on what your personal experience with mapping is, because like I think I think I played through Doom once, and then I got into mapping right after that.
Oh,
just because, it was like, because I saw, oh, you can make your own levels for this game. I want to try my hand at that. It's like I really didn't have any sort of reference as to what other people were making, and so that's just kind of my own experience.
I didn't really think about that. I guess that makes more sense now because some people's maps that I do play, like the one I played recently, it had a lot of like sector furniture in it. It had like park benches and like there was a train and there was like a road with like the lines painted in the road, like out of sectors. And I was like, this looks kind of stupid. I mean, the maps have existed like this for a very long time, but I guess like even though Doom has been around for like 20 years, it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's played everything.
Right.
So, I guess that makes more sense. But yeah, but from my experience, I did get to like compare myself. I knew right away that I wanted to be like I wanted to make great maps. So I was always like keeping up with like whatever the best maps were at the time, and trying to just like studying it and seeing if I could emulate it myself. And yeah, I don't know. I've always had like, even when it comes to like drawing and like and map building and stuff, I have a pretty good knack for like copying things that I see. Like I can look at like some set of detail or something and just kind of like figure out how to recreate it myself in the editor. So like I did a lot of like practice and like trying to figure out how to like create good detailed stuff, and so it kind of gave me like a knack for noticing those kinds of things.
Yeah, I think I would kind of do something similar in my early mapping days. Is like I would come across a PWA that would have something I would like in it, and when I didn't really have as much knowledge about just how to make stuff look the way that I wanted it, what I would do is I would actually copy and paste the room that I was interested in into another new WOD, and then I would actually copy it like line by line and sector by sector until I figured out just kind of the principle on how it was built.
Ooh.
And I used to do that for probably about a year. And basically now what I do is if I'm playing through a PWA and I come across an area that I really like, I'll take a screenshot, or like I'll make like a new save game, and I'll be like, okay, analyze this later. And then I'll kind of like look through it and figure out what it is about it that I like, and what it is that I should try to put into my next map. Like I was playing. I still haven't finished Back to Saturn X episode 2, but I was playing through map 15 of that. I think it's called A Fury of Broken Circles the other day, and it's got these beautiful rock structures in it.
Yeah.
And just the way that entire map flows, I actually kind of came out of it feeling kind of demoralized, thinking that, oh my God, I can never, measure up to anything like this. But I was basically kind of doing what I was talking about, just like taking a screenshot every 5 seconds and trying to be like, okay, I need to figure out, what's here that I can put into my own maps.
That is really interesting, kind of thinking about how, because I've seen like threads pop up on Doomworld every once in a while where people are like asking what is the correct way to start mapping, and they're usually made by people who haven't started mapping yet, and it is kind of weird to think about because there really is no correct way. I mean, everybody kind of like, just having this conversation with you, the way we started mapping was like so different. You kind of like learn it on your own. You just kind of self-teach your way into making maps, and so that is like pretty fascinating, and it sucks that there are like sometimes you can play like a really cool map such as that one you just saw in Back to Saturn X, which is like almost intimidating that you don't even think you'd ever be able to measure up to it. That really sucks when that happens, because I'd like to see everybody like do the best that they can and just like try to compete with even like some of the best maps that are around. But I guess that's not always easy for everybody.
Well, I think it takes practice, and I mean, looking back at what I am able to make now compared to where I was, like even just because the map Rending Halls and not Rending Halls, Morning Halls and Doom the Way You Did Lost episodes,
Yeah.
M4M6. Have you played that?
I think so. I know. When it comes to like community projects and stuff, I hardly remember specific maps, but I know I played through the entire thing, so I'm sure I played it.
Yeah. Well, that map was actually basically created after the fact. Like, it was based off of another map by General Rainbow Bacon that had the name Rending Halls. And I decided that for whatever reason, I liked it, and I wanted to take a whole bunch of creative freedom with it. And I think it took me I think I worked on it for like about a year, and I got it about 3/4 of the way done, and then I finally decided to hand it off to Alfonso to do, Alfonso to finish, and then Zazer to do the bug fixing on it. But it ended up being this really huge sort of monstrosity in the end. But I mean, comparing that with what I tried to get into Doom the Way It Did before, there's like light years of difference. And then I'm sure that another few years from now there will be a light year of difference between that and what I'm able to make then.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's always going to be somebody that's better than you when you're making a map, and it's like you can either sort of crumple up in failure and feeling like you're totally hopeless, or you can just keep on practicing.
Yeah, I can imagine that being. Yeah, well, that is something that does happen with collaborations, especially. They do tend to get like really really big. I noticed that. Did you happen to see when I started this community project called Mutiny?
I think I've heard a little bit about it, but you might have to refresh me on it.
Okay, it's this community project that I started where I created this texture pack that was kind of inspired by projects like Strain and Dystopia 3 and what's that thing that Christus made? I can't remember what it's called right now. I'll remember it later though. But it's kind of like the cyberpunk atmosphere with like all kinds of like warning stripes and slime on the walls and a lot of bright colors and stuff like that.
Is it kind of like Aquatex?
Sort of, yeah, something like that. And
okay.
And my goal was to make it kind of look really grainy and like 90s looking. But the concept of the project was that it was a community project, but the one rule in the project was that you couldn't work on a map by yourself. You had to collaborate with somebody else. So a lot of people would start a map and then they would make like 85% of it and then hand it off to somebody, and then they wanted to make their mark on the map, so they would do like another 85%. So they just had like a map that was just way too big.
So you have like 160% of a map in the end.
Yeah, it was just I had a lot of like giant maps that I had to really scale back in order to make them like actually like playable. I mean, it's not that they weren't playable, but I didn't want my players to be spending like an hour and a half per map on this entire project. But I was hoping that like the collaboration thing would work out pretty well, and it did in a lot of ways because a lot of the maps came out really awesome. But I guess like I don't know. I guess people weren't communicating as much. They just like did a bunch of mapping and then they just handed the map off when they felt like they were done with it, and that was the whole collaboration process for it. And it sucked for some people because some maps were just kind of like waiting in limbo, because some people would like make like 85% of a map, and then they would just hand it off to somebody, and they would just have the responsibility of just like fixing all the errors and getting it
right.
And they didn't get to do the fun part of mapping, you know. So I don't really know. I don't know. I think it came out pretty well the way the project came out, but I'm not sure. I would like to see the process of collaboration explored a little further, because I know there's so many people who start like megawatt projects and stuff, and that they never finish, or they have like I know I have a folder on my desktop called map pile, and it's just all of these unfinished maps that I started that I never actually finished, and there's probably like 10 times as many unfinished maps as I have finished maps, and
Yeah, I'm the exact same way.
yeah, and
I think I've probably got like 50 unfinished maps for every one map that.
yeah, that's exactly how it is. And I've released like if I count all of my maps, I think I have close to 100
Right.
of finished maps, and I in this map pile folder, I just have this huge, just like well, a lot of it is like experimental stuff too, where I was just trying to see if I could figure out how to make stuff work. Like you know how like in Plutonia they have those parts where like the chain gunners are infinitely resurrecting, and I have some like test maps where I'm like trying to figure out how to do that, and I have some other like concepts where I'm like trying to figure out how to make a certain kind of puzzle work, and other stuff like that. So they're not so like half of it isn't like actual finished like actual like maps, but there is like a bunch of stuff where where I'm just kind of like making these like weird shaped sectors and these like interesting layouts and stuff that I just never actually get around to finishing.
Right.
But I don't know. That's like I guess that's part of the process. I do. I talked with Tango about this recently, and he said his mapping style is kind of the same way, where he just kind of makes a whole bunch of different things, and then he just picks out whichever one is working, and just goes with that, and that ends up being a released map later on.
Yeah, I think that's probably the proper way to go about doing things.
Yeah, just try a bunch of stuff and see if it works.
Yeah, and I think that, like with me, and I've talked about this a little bit before, but I think that I'm less of a mapper and more of an ideas guy that happens to figure out how to use Doom Builder.
Yeah.
And that's kind of really a lot of the reason why I tend to struggle with Mapper's Block so much and why I have so few released maps is just that, I have so many different ideas that I want to try.
So, do you?
I try. I figure, hey, I'm gonna, why not try them all?
Yeah.
And that ends up, putting the map in limbo for a really long period of time.
Yeah. Do you have sometimes when I have like a project idea, I get like kind of I kind of cling on to it. I don't really want like sometimes I have like project ideas that I don't want to tell other people about because I don't want them to make it first. I want to be the guy that made it. But
right.
Do you feel that way with some of your projects too?
No, yeah. I kind of do the same thing. In fact, I've got one right now actually. But
yeah. Well, do you I wanted to ask you, do you have like project ideas that, since you're an idea guy, do you have like ideas that you think you would want to make but you don't think you'll ever have time to? Like let's say
there
like
was this and I think I talked about it a little bit in my very early years on Doom World.
Okay.
But I had this idea for a Doom Engine project called I think I had a couple of different names for it. I think that like Rift, Quiver, and I think there were a couple of other different names I had for it. But anyway, I had like a full on like a little design document that I'd made for it, describing like all the weapons and stuff. Like I was gonna have this. I had this idea for something that was kind of like the best way I could describe it would be like a black hole gun, but not in that way. Okay. It's like you would use it and it would kind of mess with gravity. It's like I'm trying to figure out how to describe it.
Okay, so this isn't like a Doom wad.
Like you hold the mouse button and you would look up, and then you would you would bring the mouse down in a really quick motion and release. And when you did that and you released the fire button, it would send like a whole bunch of monsters flying up into the air.
Ooh. Okay, so wait, is this like a Doom project or is it like a standalone game?
It was, well, I wanted it to be like kind of its own little Doom Engine game, and of course I never got around to actually starting it or making anything for it. But it was gonna be like a total conversion.
Oh,
essentially.
okay. That's a pretty cool idea. I had this one project idea that I actually talked a little bit with Dabu Gabu Maru. I hope that's how you pronounce his name. I don't remember. I never actually heard it spoken out loud, so I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. But I because since I've managed a few community projects, and so he has too. I pitched this idea with him. I don't know if we're actually going to go anywhere with it though. But I thought that we could collaborate together to manage an official Hell Revealed 3.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and I made some textures for it. So like I kind of, but I don't know what to do because Hell Revealed 2 and Hell Revealed 1 are very different map sets because
Right.
they're made by different people and they kind of have different inspirations behind them. All they really have in common is that the idea is they want the maps to be hard. So
Right.
so like my idea was like this kind of invite only community project where I would contact a bunch of Doomworld's like hardest mappers, like Rivix and like Dana Babinga and Demonologist and Cynical and Octavarium and like a whole bunch of other like Joshi, like a bunch of people who have made like are like most famous like difficult maps, and get those people to make some sort of a map for this project. And I had like kind of like this texture set that was like it was mostly like tan bricks and stuff and like variants and like wood and stuff, but there's also like blood splatters and stuff too. And it would just kind of like be it would kind of be this I really like the Hell Revealed 2 style, the way it's like kind of earthy and has like that orange cloudy sky. I
Right.
like that style. So I wanted to go with that, but I understand, but some people don't really consider Hell Revealed 2 to be like a true Hell Revealed sequel. They probably consider Hell Revealed 1 to be much more its own thing. So like I don't know if it's possible to even blend these two styles, and I don't even know if the hardest part is that it's not really my place to decide whether Hell Revealed 3 should exist or not, because we don't really have the original people that made either of those two WODs in the community now. So like I'm kind of at a crossroads about how I would go about it. I think I might like have to like if I'm actually going to start the project, I feel like I would have to make like a thread on Doomworld asking for like a vote on what I should do if this were to happen. But I'm not even sure how that would work out.
Right.
Just,
Yeah, no,
like,
what would probably happen is you'd probably get a lot of people mad at you for that exact reason. Because it's like your mentality is kind of like hey, let's make another Hell Revealed 3 because it'd be cool, and then other people's mentality is gonna be like, how dare you try to do that, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, you're destroying the Hell Revealed name and all that stuff. But I feel like that's kind of what I've heard. That's kind of what Hell Revealed 2 did in the first place. It kind of like messed up the Hell Revealed 1 name. But
right.
I like both of those WODs. So
Yeah.
it's really I'm not really dead set on how I feel about either one.
Right.
But
something I wanted to do is so the project RTC 3057.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something that because Team Future has stopped working on that, to my knowledge. Something that I've kind of tossed around in my head would be finishing that.
Ooh, that's a cool idea.
Be so cool.
Yeah, it would be awesome to like finish all those like abandoned projects like Ghostbusters Doom and like
right.
There's a lot of like great stuff that's just not finished, and
right.
or like Doom Resurrection. Oh man, I remember when I saw that for the first time when I first found out about Doom World. I remember looking at those like pages and seeing Doom Resurrection. I was like, oh, I want to play that. But I played the first episode for it. It's not that great.
Right.
But I remember thinking it was like the coolest thing when I first saw it.
Yeah, that's the isn't it kind of funny, like when you first start getting into mapping and you have certain projects that you play and at the time you think they're the coolest thing ever, and then like you look at it 5 years after the fact and you're like, oh my god, did I really enjoy that?
Yeah, it is. It is weird. I remember thinking that like Kama Sutra was like the most detailed thing ever,
right.
and I play it today and it's so silly looking. I mean, it is detailed in some places, but I remember being like really impressed by it because there's especially this one part that was really captivating for me. Is there's this part in Kama Sutra and I forget what level it is. I think it's like map 18 or something, but there's a part where there's a wheelbarrow made out of step top textures.
Really?
And it looks ridiculous. But
I don't think I can picture that.
It's the wheelbarrow is made out of step top textures, and there's like this set of this like textures that was like the wheel for the wheelbarrow that was in front of it, and it's just like this jagged, blocky thing. And it was so corny looking, but I remember when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, that's a wheelbarrow. This game is amazing. And like Kamasutra had a bunch of other cool stuff like that, like they had like forklifts and like sewer grates and stuff, and like other like sector furniture and stuff like that.
Right.
And I was so impressed by that at the time, but
I remember being really impressed by the 3D bridges that people make out of the stair step textures.
Oh yeah, yeah. That blew me away.
Well, you do what I mean, in vanilla Doom, you can only do so much, but it's once again, it's weird to think, oh my gosh, I used to be impressed by this.
Yeah, it's a shame once you like start finding out what, like when you actually like get into mapping and stuff, and you like after you've played these WODs and stuff, and you see people doing these cool things, and then you actually start making maps, the kind of magic behind that stuff isn't as impressive anymore. Like once you realize that you can recreate it yourself and it's not that hard.
Yeah, that's something that I've noticed ever since I've been mapping too, is that the original novelty that was there the very first time that I opened up Doom Builder and started making a map, I've never experienced that since.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah, this is a very like Memphis kind of conversation, but I know like like there's a way that like once you kind of explore and like I know like after I learned out about a bunch of things like the random number generator in Doom, where like weapons will always do X amount of damage or something, or like monsters will always do this range of damage and stuff like that. Killing monsters seemed a lot less like a kind of like a chaotic thing. Like I remember I thought for a while that Berserk packs, when you had Berserk, if you ran and punched a monster, it would hurt them a lot more than if you were just standing still. And then I found out later it's just this whole random thing, and there's really no control that you have as a player.
Yeah.
And I was really disappointed when I found that, because I always loved like getting like a running start right before I punched a monster, and it'd be like bam, and then hit him and he flies across the room, and that was so satisfying when that happened.
Right. Or I don't know. I mean, even just playing through the game for the first time, and just like I remember seeing in E1M3 for the first time, seeing that soul spear, that sits on top of the pedestal in a really dark room, and thinking, oh, what the hell is that? How do I get to that? And just kind of that. Or in E1M9, when I discovered that pentagram teleporter for the first time, that was the coolest thing to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, shit. It's like I know how everything works, and it's, I don't know. I mean, it's fun still, but the magic that it had is not really there anymore.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. When you look at especially when you look at E1M9, I remember when I looked at that map for the first time and I found out that there was this hole in the corner, and that's where the monsters hear you from. And then once they hear you, they just walk through a teleporter, and then they appear at the star. And it's not as demonic anymore. You just kind of the mechanics of how the map works, and then it's just kind of it's just the mapping engineering and not actually do magic.
That's the thing with playing Doom nowadays. Is like it's less like you're playing a game. Like I don't know. It's less like you're sort of playing a game, and more like I'm having trouble finding words for it. But
I kind of get what you mean.
I understand what I'm talking about.
Right. It's I know. I had this conversation in this thread that I made recently where I was asking about how to make better maps, and I know that when I'm playing a map, I almost feel like I have some kind of responsibility to like be play testing it and reviewing it so that I can give the player feedback. And in that way, I'm not really enjoying myself when I'm playing it, because I'm playing it almost like it's a job, and I'm like making observations and not necessarily just having fun,
Right.
And it kind of like absorbs the fun out of the game. But I don't know. It is like an important thing to be playtesting people's maps, because I've been hearing that like a lack of feedback is something that's like kind of a big problem in the community these days. There's so many mappers today. There's just new maps coming out all the time.
Right.
You just can't keep up with everything. So you kind of have to, if you want people to if people want to get better, you have to be around to help them. But yeah, it is weird when once you like become a mapper and you realize, like when I know, for example, just knowing all of the line def types. Like I'll know that like this switch can only do this amount of things. Like it can be raising a floor, it could be lowering a floor, it could be opening a door, it could be lowering a lift. It only does those things.
Or seeing this light that doesn't behave a way that it normally does, and do imagine thinking to yourself, okay, this was obviously done by some sort of dummy sector on sort of the other end of the map, stuff like that.
Yeah, and like if you see like a flashing light and it flashes from like whatever brightness to 0, it's because they didn't do it right. And it's just like it's not like a cool flickering light anymore. It's something that's wrong. That's wrong. It's and it sucks when it sucks. It kind of takes that magic away. But I don't know. I guess that's the price you pay once you actually learn more about the thing. But it makes it. I'm happy to know that there are a lot of new people playing Doom today, though. I mean, if you look at Doom World, I mean, there's a new person registering like every couple hours. So it's cool that there's still like new people playing Doom, and it would be interesting to hear their perspectives about playing these WODs and stuff, and hearing their experience without knowing all the stuff that we know about mapping.
Yeah, and that's actually why I really enjoy getting feedback on maps, and and also seeing what people who are playing Doom for the first time have to say about it, because it's interesting to get a fresh take on it.
Yeah.
From somebody whose eyes have not been tainted by
yeah.
from innocent eyes, I guess.
Yeah, we're so spoiled.
Right.
It's still pretty interesting to me though when we have people like John Romero, who still is willing to talk about Doom, considering that he made the game 20 years ago. Because like if somebody asked me a question about something that I made when I was 8 years old, because that would be 20 years ago for me. If someone asked me about that, I'd be like, dude, get over it. I do not care anymore. That's something I made 20 years ago. I don't give a shit.
Right.
But
I think I'm kind of the opposite way, because it's like I don't really enjoy so much like having a finished map as I enjoy the creative process.
Oh, that's good.
So it's like if somebody were to ask me, even if it was something that I did really, really long time ago, like how I did something or what I was thinking when I did something, like I could just talk about that for hours and then hours on end, just because I love the creative process so much. And I can talk about that with other mappers too. And it's just like I love to find out what was going through their head when they made such and such an area and stuff. And that's why I love watching the devs play videos of Doom and whatnot.
Yeah.
To really get into the mapper's head and sort of kind of understand that creative process with them.
Yeah, I get that from you. I feel like you're someone who's very interested in that kind of stuff. And that's fun to talk about, like kind of learning about people's like what was going through their head when they were creating something, and like kind of like following in their footsteps and stuff like that. I really enjoyed watching those videos too, especially because John Romero still had like all this really interesting information to talk about, like how he made E1M1 last. That was the last map he made. That was really fascinating to me, because it was it's a very simple reason he did it, and it was because once you've made all the other maps, you're already really good at making maps, so you want your first one to be the best, and then you just make that last. That's really interesting, and it's interesting because every project I've ever worked on, I've always made the first map first.
Yeah, and I think that I'm trying not to do that, and the project that I'm working on is I'm trying to get out of that habit, but it's counterintuitive, so it's kind of hard to, start out with a map that's going to end up in the middle of the project and then, come back and do the first map later. But
yeah, I know.
It's the best way to go about things.
I have been thinking about that, because like I'm working on this project now, and I've been thinking about if it would make more sense if I just started from the middle of the project where it's where like the stakes aren't as high, and just kind of like make something like just kind of make like whatever my average basic stuff is first, and then like once I have like a good like middle of the project, I can just wrap it up with like a really nice finishing map and a really nice beginning map, and then just kind of create the map set that way. But I've never actually done anything like that before, so I don't know how it's going to turn out, and I'm afraid to waste that experiment on a project that I think is going to be pretty good. but I don't, maybe I could start working on like some other like not as ambitious projects and try it that way.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally see what you're saying.
It would be cool to see how. Oh yeah, that's right. We saw that post on Facebook from Tom Hall about how he woke up in the middle of the night and had an idea for a Doom map, and he put hashtag maybe 25th anniversary, which I think the 24th anniversary is coming up soon, right? So
I have lost track.
I think the most
track. I remember the 20th anniversary, and I don't even remember how many years have passed since.
Yeah, I think the most recent one was the 23rd CAC Award. So right. The next one will be. I wonder if Tom Hall knows that. I hope he's not making us wait an entire year. But it'd be really interesting to see if Tom Hall makes a map. I'm really interested to see what he comes up with.
Yeah, and I have this. Like a lot of people don't like Tom Hall's maps just because of, people generally don't tend to like pseudo-realism in Doom just because it doesn't really work that well in terms of flow. But I have this thing that I've coined this term. I like to call it Tom Hall-isms, which is where you have a space that's obviously supposed to be functional in some way, but it's like one abstraction away from reality where you can't really figure out what it is. I love stuff like that, like that part in that bit in E7 where you have the two little steps, and then you have like the little wall that's got like a computer in it. It's got like these 3 little lights on it, or the place where you have like the ledge that's got like the computer textures on it. It's got like the blue light above it. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, Tom Hall does like a lot of cool stuff like that. Huh. I wonder what kind of map he would want to make. I wonder what it would even look like.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know if he would be trying to go off of something that was more like pseudo realistic, like in the Doom Bible, or if he'd. I imagine that he would probably approach a Doom builder nowadays with more of a Mario Maker sort of mentality, because he's played through Doom, and so now he knows kind of how all the monsters work and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I don't know what a modern Tom Hall map would look like, because it wouldn't be. I'm 99% certain that it wouldn't look like something that he would have made in the 90s.
Yeah, I wonder if he would.
He's not working on the Doom Bible anymore.
Yeah, I wonder if he would like make his own textures and like create his own. That's kind of far-fetched, but I wonder if he would like make his own textures and like try to create this narrative, kind of like because I know I did talk to him one time on WXR before, and he talked a little bit about how the original concept for Doom was in the first map. You would have like these 4 guys sitting around a crate playing cards, and a monster would come and kill like assuming it was supposed to be a 4-player game, but if you play
one second, sorry, I can't hear you. There's the
Oh, okay.
What the hell?
All
right, one moment.
Something going on. Okay, well that's all right. Well, in the Tom Hall episode,
the library just closed and they're playing music over the intercom to get everybody to leave. I'm trying to find a quiet spot to finish this up.
Oh, okay. So we gotta wrap this up.
It's probably gone on for like an hour and a half, so it's probably good to finish it up. But I figured.
All right, sure. Well, anyway, I was about to talk about Tom Hall, but I have an episode with him. So if you wanna find out about him, watch his episode.
I'm sorry. We're probably gonna have to finish this up right here, right now, because I cannot hear a word that you're saying.
Okay. All right. I'll see you later, Martin. Thanks for being on the show, man.
See you later. Sorry about that.
That's okay. No problem, man.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we're off air. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening.